Just a couple of rules, some ground rules before we get started. This is a study session. It is not a city council meeting of the sort that requires a vote on anything. In fact, tonight, what we're going to do tonight is listen to a report from our city manager and to a certain extent from our chief of police on the issue of the 9/11 dispatch. And the only decision or movement that the city council is going to make tonight is either directing or not directing the city manager to put this topic on the agenda for a public hearing sometime later this month. Probably not May 9th, because it's too soon, but probably more likely May 25th, which gives us enough time to give this notice. So there's no decision to be made tonight on this issue by this council, other than whether or not it's going on the agenda, at which time we'll have another public hearing, as we did a few weeks back, and at which time the council, if it's on the agenda, does have the ability to vote on it, or to do whatever the council pleases to do. Another ground rule, some of you already who've been around the city long enough know that at study sessions, we usually do not take public comment. It's just a study session. We just hear things from our city manager, and we go forward, we ask questions, and that's the end of it. However, I've thought about it, and I've decided that I will make an exception. And I see Peter's here. As representative of the union, I will give you 10 minutes to speak. And I will give anyone else who wants to speak 1 minute to speak on this. Again, it's not something we normally do, so I'm making an exception. If you do want to speak, you need to fill out one of the, well, if you don't have a card, if we can get some cards. Do we have them back there or not? Don't have them? Oh, you have some? Okay, good. So our city clerk, Annette Hipona, will be passing around cards or put them in the back. If you do want to speak, please fill one out and give it to someone as early as possible in the meeting. Just a word of caution, Peter. I will tell you this, and I'm telling you this because the last time, I'm giving you 10 minutes. I'm going to let the city manager and the city staff do their presentation. If there's any interruption, I'm docking you a minute. It's plain and simple, okay? It's a ground rule I need to establish so we can have clarity, so we can have decorum, and we can have some sense of order and process. Okay?
Sal, can each dispatcher get 10 minutes as well?
No, you get 10 minutes, they get a minute. We will have another hearing again where everybody gets 2 minutes, and I can decide whether I give you
I want to
longer.
provide them with my time.
Okay, I'm going to start docking you right now if you want, okay? All right, let's get started. And by the way, we're going to go until about 7:30, then we're done. Okay? All right. Let's get started, Pat.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, we are following up from the discussion that was held at the regular meeting of the City Council on February 22nd, at which time we presented a report regarding a draft proposal that we had received from the County of San Mateo's Public Safety Communications Center to assume responsibility for providing 911 dispatch services to the city through a 5-year contract. At that time, because of a number of questions that were raised, the City Council directed me and the staff to go back and sit down with the representatives from the County of San Mateo and to actually put together a draft contract for review that would include all of the terms and conditions that would be relevant to the kind of proposal that we're going to be discussing again at length tonight regarding the delivery of service for a fee, and that service would be police dispatch. And just by very, very quick summary, this is not a new issue for the city. We have looked at this issue in several different iterations over the past 7 years. We've looked at a previous proposal from the county. We've looked at a proposal from the city of South San Francisco, which would have consolidated dispatch with the cities of Pacifica and Daly City and South San Francisco. We've looked at a proposal from the city of San Mateo to take over police dispatch. So the police chief and I and the staff have looked at this issue from a variety of different angles and a variety of different proposals. And none of those have ever come forward to the council previously because we did not believe that those proposals offered the kind of benefits that we have seen as a result of the proposal that we have received from the County of San Mateo in the proposal that we're going to be discussing tonight. And just so that you know, I want the chief to express to the council and to the public here and those who are watching at home the direct involvement that the police department has had in vetting all of the different proposals that we've looked at and why this is the single proposal that has ever come forward to the council for consideration. And I'm asking the chief to do that tonight because there seems to be a misperception that the city manager alone is the person who has come up with this idea to contract out dispatch. Totally not accurate at all. This has been a joint effort between my office and the police department in looking at these various proposals over the years, and particularly with this proposal of really vetting all the details that we're going to go over tonight. So, Chief, just for the benefit of the public here and for the council, can you tell me what you, or share with the council what you have been doing and how you got engaged in this process?
Well, Mayor, City Council, it basically started when I got hired. When I got hired, I walked into already the idea of outsourcing communication with South City, Pacifica, and Daly City. So it was already kind of, started, right? So my job coming in with the staff we already had, we started looking at that option. The option was looking very good at us, consolidating with Pacifica and South City. The only thing that stopped it was that somewhere along the line, the operational cost to outsource was a little bit more expensive than Daly City could afford. So we ended up opting out. Pacifica and South City, they consolidated. So the consolidation of dispatch has always been there when we talk about operational cost, infrastructure, and technology. So again, maybe a year later too, the city managers got together. Now we started looking at maybe doing a JPA, a joint powers of authority, to try to bring everybody to come in and basically share the wealth in regards to infrastructure, technology, and so forth. It didn't happen, and for reasons I really don't know, other than we didn't go forward. But the idea of always outsourcing has always been there, because they use an example with with Daly City Fire and with the paramedics. So in 2013, we looked at it again because we needed to go with the budget and look at operational costs. So we looked at outsourcing again. And this time we had input from South City, from San Mateo, Redwood City, and County. We looked at all the options, and it was during that time that, we had some that would have saved us a couple of $100,000, and another one that would have cost more. But looking at it, I said, you know what, if we're looking at only saving $200,000 to $300,000, we put together with my staff and again with our dispatchers, it came with the idea that if we needed to save money, I would have to eliminate 2 dispatcher positions. So we came up with that proposal, and again, part of my job, going to city managers, trying to give her the best options we've had regards to dispatch. And so we were able to save the $200,000. I was able to tell the city manager that this was the best option to go. The only thing with that one is that the option was that she was going to allow me to hire as many per diems as I could hire. And that reason because I only had to pay the cost of them coming in. It was a great idea. It lasted for a while until we started losing per diems. And one of the reasons is that other agencies, shorter staff, paid more. Why come work for us when you work someplace else or agency and make more money time and a half? So as we move forward, the option's always been out there to look at either consolidated, doing a JPA, or even outsourcing in the city. And I think within the last year, county came up again and says, hey, any way, we can come in and, maybe, give you a proposal. And telling the county says, you're going to have to save me more than the $200,000 to $300,000. So in a roundabout way, they gave an informal proposal, and I looked at it and I thought, okay, this is worth talking with the city manager. Approach the city manager, says, you know what, we have a chance here to look at maybe outsourcing dispatch to county if it meets all the requirements. As we're doing this, the city manager says, well, let's look at the option, and that's where I put my staff together, and when it was all said and done, we had a pretty good proposal. And the big question about being the chief of police is that I'm never going to do anything to harm our organization. But I always look at the operational cost, the infrastructure, especially the technology. And so when I put it all together with my staff, we looked at it, so what do you think? And we all agreed that, and for us to move forward, we have to look at maybe outsourcing Daly City. So when I approached the city manager, she said, let's move forward and give it to council. So the illusion that I'm not for this proposal, it's not true. You know, I would never go to my city manager with a proposal if I didn't think it was the best thing for my community. You know, it's the best thing that benefits my community. So again, where I'm at with this is that I think, you know, this is a great idea. We sit here, we do a study session, and we answer all those questions on why not. And maybe we can answer the possibly what yes, and then it's up to city council to decide.
So I think the relevant point to be made in conclusion to what the chief has just said is that one of the primary reasons for looking at dispatch in several different proposals was, yes, to save money, and not just from the standpoint of personnel costs. The other overarching cost center is technology. And we have known for a number of years that we needed to upgrade the technology in the Daly City Police Department's communications center. And that would require a significant investment of dollars. But the problem is it's not just a one-time investment in dollars, because technology, and particularly the kind of technology that's used for these kinds of communication centers, it changes. And so in order to keep pace with each new generation, it's like getting a new iPhone every 2 years. You know, the technology changes that fast, and the needs change, so that you have to keep investing. And because, as I mentioned in my staff report, police dispatch is one of the largest cost centers in the police department's budget. And if people are not aware, the police department's budget is the largest budget of any department in the city. And so when we start looking at trying to become more efficient, more cost-effective in what we do, we have to look at a variety of different kinds of operations. And primarily because as we reduce costs for operations where we can provide it in an alternative model, like the one we're going to be talking about tonight, it then potentially frees up resources that can go back into the #1 priority in the police department, and that's sworn officers, because that's what provides safety to this city. And so keeping that in mind as we go through this proposal is really important, because the chief and I and Captain Gamez have looked at this through the lens that we want to ensure, #1, that we provide the highest quality service and response time to the public in Daly City. That's #1. Right behind that, #2, is ensuring the safety of our police officers on the street. Without assurances of those two overarching priorities, we wouldn't be here sitting talking about this. So we're in agreement that this proposal offers that level of assurance to the council that nothing's going to be shortchanged for the public in terms of the service they receive. When they call 911, it will be seamless. They will not know where they are calling. It'll be the same as it is right now. And secondly, for our police officers, their safety will always remain #1 priority in this. So as we go through and talk about the benefits of consolidation of police, obviously we've talked about the cost effectiveness. That's really important. But more than that, we really want to talk about the fact that we have an opportunity to enhance our overall public safety dispatch, because co-locating police and fire in the same communication center is a huge benefit. And for the public who aren't aware, when you call for a fire emergency right now, that call is received in Daly City's public police dispatch center. It's then routed to San Mateo County's Public Safety Communication Center. So the actual response for fire and emergency medical services does not result here in Daly City. It happens in Daly City. It happens in Redwood City. And it has been that way for 19 years. It has been effective. We have never lost any lives as a result of fire being dispatched down to the Public Safety Communications Center in Redwood City. The benefit of co-locating, as I'm talking about tonight, and having both police and fire there, is that when a call goes in, if 2 calls go in simultaneously, it'll be routed immediately and instantly to fire and police. Whereas here, there is a short delay to have it routed to Redwood City. So co-locating the two services down in Redwood City in the Public Safety Communications Center is a huge benefit in terms of the public and the response time for the public. In addition, as we begin to look at ways that we can improve technology, there are a lot of emerging next-generation technologies that public safety communication centers, like the county, like all the departments that have their own in-house system like we do, we're seeing that emerging technology. We have an analog system. Digital system is the wave of the future. The county has that. We have the opportunity to get the benefit in the long term of being able to migrate our analog system to a digital system and have all of the benefits that come along with that enhanced technology. We would not be able to afford that in Daly City. We would put together whatever incremental upgrades of our system that were absolutely required to ensure that we had a fail-safe system. But we would not have the availability of millions and millions of dollars to upgrade our system to a comparable system like that which would be offered by going down to Redwood City and being part of the new communications facility that the county is constructing. That $46 million facility will be a state-of-the-art communications center, one that has the highest upgrades of technology. And in the interim, before we can migrate our system from the analog system that we have to a fully digital system, the county has agreed in the contract that you have before you for consideration to ensure that the interface that's required for the analog system and the digital system to work seamlessly will be put into place. They have invited the chief and the captain and our staff here in Daly City to work with their consultant that will be putting together the package for their new communications center. And we will have input, we'll have an understanding of exactly how the system is going to work. We'll have all the technology, patches, and interfaces that are needed here to ensure that we don't lose any calls and that it will be a fail-safe system for those who will be using the system. The benefit of that, for us particularly, is when you look at $46 million, the facility that the county is planning to construct and that is anticipated to be completed by October of 2017, that's a fully funded project. Whether Daly City goes there or not, that project is moving forward. So we get the benefit because we're getting in on the ground floor at a time when that facility will be in construction, when we will be able to see the benefits arising from having that new facility. And as I mentioned in my report, there is not a time in the near future or in the long term that I can tell you that Daly City would ever be able to afford anything that's even remotely close to the kind of facility that will be available through the county. Now, operationally, we've looked at everything that the county has to offer. And I'm going to turn it over to Captain Gamez, because Captain Gamez has been involved in our communications system here, has worked with our dispatchers, has a long history in the Department of working in communications, and has been a part in seeing what we've done over the years to try and sort of create a patchwork of improvements to our own communications center. But what the county is offering us in terms of our being able to be directly involved in everything that goes on in that communications center so that we understand exactly the way that dispatch is being handled down there is something that he's been involved with in discussing all of the terms of this agreement with the county. So John, you want to just share how it's going to work and how we view the potential for moving forward in a seamless way?
Sure. Throughout the process, we've taken a look at a number of issues related to dispatch. Those issues have been identified by stakeholders in this decision-making process, the union, the employees, and our consultant, Daryl Jones. We looked at each of those issues, and as Ms. Martell was speaking of the CAD system, issues come up related to CAD. Does the CAD migrate? Does it send information that goes through dispatch into our records management system? How do we overcome that? What's the business practice change? And we've had to do that for 50, 60 different identified issues that were brought forward by these groups. And in each of those issues, I've been able to work with county to identify a resolution. And in many cases, when the stakeholders felt that there would be an increased cost, or a long-term cost, or a short-term cost, county has been able to essentially provide that service at no extra cost than the basic service they're providing in the contract.
So from an operational perspective, one of the things that is also a benefit is related to, and it's the most important part about the way that we operate our own in-house communication system. Right now, we are actually operating at a disadvantage because we don't have the staffing capacity that we should for our communication center. And the chief mentioned that earlier because as a result of budget cuts in recent years, we've had to eliminate some dispatch positions. We have filled in with per diems that come in, you know, to fill in for vacations and illness and that kind of thing, which is getting increasingly more difficult, if not impossible to do because they just aren't available. So the benefit for us with this county proposal is that it provides the absolute capacity that we need. And it provides that capacity at a reduced cost. And the reason is because the county has the capacity to absorb the calls for service that we know that Daly City has. They have the ability to have dedicated staff that will only be picking up Daly City calls. But they also have expanded capacity, so if there's an emergency, and the one I'll cite is as an example of the kind of emergency I'm talking about, where there was multiple dispatching going on all over the county, was the huge PG&E disaster in San Bruno. They were having to dispatch police and fire across communities along the peninsula because of the need for manpower to be able to assist in that disaster. The benefit of the county's capacity is that in those large-scale emergencies, they can jump into it in a moment's notice to be able to manage all of the police and fire calls. We barely have the capacity to absorb the calls that we need to on a day-to-day basis. And again, I'll turn it over to John because overseeing that capacity problem has been an issue for us.
So clearly, our current staffing levels are 9 dispatchers, and now we're down to 1 dispatch supervisor. We're authorized 11 and 2, so 11 dispatchers work in a console. And you'll hear about a proposal about 10 working dispatchers and 2 working supervisors. The struggle is simply the men and women in dispatch work terribly hard. I want to make that clear. They work very hard to cover a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week operation that requires a tremendous amount of staff. The problem is this staffing situation is precarious. At any given time, if we have a long-term illness or an injury, that can cause problems where we have gaps in service and we have to call people back from home to come in and work 4 hours from 11 at night to 3 in the morning as an example. To cover that shift, and it's gotten precarious. We've had a couple of situations recently where we were pretty close to having to ask for help to cover those shifts. So although the men and women work very, very hard, the reality of it is the staffing situation is precarious at best.
Put a hiring freeze on.
Okay, that's 1 minute, Peter. That's 1
Go
minute.
ahead, Doug.
I'm
not
serious.
gonna leave. You can arrest me.
Peter,
You can
I'm
arrest me.
serious.
We're gonna speak tonight,
Okay,
Sal.
that's 2 minutes.
Sal, give me a
That's
break.
2 minutes. That's 3 minutes.
2
Keep
minutes,
going.
3 minutes. All right, gonna
You're
kick
down
me
to
out?
7. Keep going.
God bless you.
So-
Transparency and democracy.
so there's-
Put a
there-
hiring freeze on, John.
There are
Lie.
Okay,
You did.
down to 6.
so if you'd like me to address that, I can. So
No, just keep going. Go do your presentation.
So I think my
Get kicked out.
presentation is
The refusal
that
to let us do it
the
this way.
reality of it is in both schedules, the schedules are precarious. It takes a significant amount of staff to staff a communication center. And right now, with 9, it's very difficult. With 11, which is our authorized number, it's still difficult. If it doesn't leave a lot of room for contingency, I guess.
Let me just point out, too, I have said twice already in my presentation that due to budgetary constraints, we haven't filled positions. I acknowledge that, and that's the problem. This is not a sustainable model. In order for it to be a sustainable model, it needs to have the full staffing capacity. But as you're going to hear in a few minutes as we go through the financials, in order to achieve that, and not even to achieve it at the level that the county would provide it, but to achieve a more sustainable level than we have, not a perfect sustainable level, it's going to cost significantly more money. And that's where the problem is, because the benefit with the county is that they have the capacity to do what we need to do without adding a lot of new personnel, which is the issue that we're facing in terms of the budget constraints that we have. We can't add new personnel.
I have a question.
That's the problem.
So, Captain Gabbins, I just want to just get clarity, and maybe you can provide a little bit of what you said was pretty interesting, and I just wanted to expand on that. So, have you noticed our response times going to incidents? Have they been? I mean, has it been longer? Because what you're basically saying, and tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, that the city is currently operating in a very difficult state when it comes to having dispatchers come to work. Can you expand on that for me in terms of response calls and?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I initially started to say that they are, the men and women are doing the job under pretty dire, pretty difficult circumstances. And yes, we haven't filled all the vacancies. We have what we have now. Really the difficulty comes in if somebody's sick.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody's sick, then we have to try and staff that minimum staffing of 2 dispatchers. And so far, we've been able to do that. We've been close, but we've been able to staff it. And when those 2 dispatchers are in there, they do a good job. There's no issues with response times or service. It's simply, there's no contingency for any long-term illnesses, injuries, things of that nature.
The reason I asked that question is I just wanted to make sure, there's a lot of people watching this in the public, and the way, I just want to make sure that people know that the current services that are being delivered at an adequate level. Because I've been on the council now for about 8 years, and this is sort of the first time that I've heard about the dispatching issue. And I guess my second follow-up question to that is, why are we staffed at a lower level? Was that something that the chief determined? Was that you who made that decision?
So we are staffed at 11, and that was the agreement after there was a reduction in staff during the last series of proposals. Mm-hmm. We are at 9 dispatchers, and we do have the ability to hire. However, this process was moving along quickly early on, and we would not have been able to background, hire, and train a dispatcher during that compressed time frame. If we would have, then it would really be unfair to somebody to hire them and then not even train them, and then they would be out,
What do you
potentially.
explain to me the compressed time frame?
So initially, we were going to council in a very short time frame. We got the requisition within, let's say, 14 days, and we were going to council at the first meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't. We had people on the list. We decided not to move forward on hiring those people until we had some resolution to whether we were staying or whether we were consolidating.
So this is recent then.
Yes.
How many months? I'm just so I know.
I can't give you an accurate.
Okay.
This is within the last 3 months that we've.
The reason I'm asking that, it's very important. I was thinking maybe it was a couple years, 3 years, but since we're going through this process and making an assessment of whether we're going to, go to the county, it's something that's occurred within the last 3 months, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, John.
So the staffing shortages that you referred to within the last 3 months are just vacant positions that could be filled.
Got it.
The fact that we are operating with fewer staff overall has been an ongoing issue. That didn't just happen in the last 3 months. It's just filling a vacant position to bring the capacity up. But even if we did, we're still not at a fully staffed level for what we should be in terms of the needs of the Public Safety Communications Center here in Daly City.
And what would be what would be the fully staffed number? If we were fully staffed, what would that number look like?
So
13.
well,
13?
right now it would be 11 and 2 would be staffing. We've had as many in the last 22 years I've been here. We had 16 dispatchers at one point. And then we've cut slowly away from that.
So you've cut 3 to 13, right?
11, yeah, we're now at 11 dispatchers and 2 supervisors. The supervisor positions were created out of that original 16.
So
Okay.
even though the population's grown, we're dealing with fewer down from the 16.
Yes.
We have been, yes.
Yeah,
We
dispatchers
have
and
been.
officers
There's
both,
no
yeah.
doubt about it. We have been. And, as I mentioned, and we're going to get into that right now, when we look at the financials of this proposal, to be able to move up to what would be the optimal staffing level would cost us several $1,000,000 more than what we're currently paying. And even what we're currently paying for our dispatch operation is in excess of what we can really afford. So with respect to the dispatch personnel, and I'm really glad that Captain Gamez mentioned this, because nowhere in any of the discussions that we have had to date on all the different proposals that we've looked at over the years is there any issue with respect to the quality of the people that work for us. The dispatchers are hardworking, as Captain Gamez said. The difficult environment under which they have been forced to perform is not of their own doing. We recognize that. It's a fiscal constraint. And that has been outside of their control, and in many respects, it's been outside of our control, because our priority has been to have uniformed, sworn officers on the street. And so when push comes to shove, the civilian personnel in both fire and police are the positions that are reduced, not the sworn officers, if we can at all avoid it. And that has been the case with public safety dispatch here in Daly City. But the people who work here are all very qualified dispatchers. And that's the reason why part of this proposal that makes it very attractive in terms of transition for our public safety dispatch to the county would be that the county has agreed to hire our public safety dispatchers. So even though they would be laid off from the city of Daly City, they would gain immediate employment with the county of San Mateo and their public safety dispatch. They have to meet certain criteria, which none of the criteria that they have to meet, which is passing a background test, which they had to pass when they came to Daly City, ensuring that their performance has been, acceptable while they work for us, which if it wasn't, they probably wouldn't be working for us, and that they pass the training program that familiarizes them with the county's protocols for dispatch. We have no reason to assume that any of them would not pass all of those criteria with exceptional skill, because they've been dedicated dispatchers here and have done a very good job. But the most immediate benefit that they would realize is that the compensation offered by the county is substantially more than Daly City is paying them now, and that we would be paying them in the foreseeable future. So they get the immediate benefit of having employment, which many people who are laid off from a job don't. They get the immediate benefit of having a higher level of compensation. They get the immediate benefit of working in an environment that is, by virtue of having the capacity necessary to do the job in an effective way with the people you need to support you, the work environment is going to be enhanced because they're going to have the resources that they need to help them do their jobs well.
Pat, all those assurances are in the contract, yeah?
Absolutely, they are. And in addition to that, the county's dispatch system, because they have police and fire and medical, it offers a career ladder for dispatchers that Daly City does not, by providing police dispatch. So they would have an opportunity, far more opportunities for training and specialty assignments that would involve fire, SWAT, the gang task force, doing special events, serving as academy instructors, helping to train new dispatchers in the future. All of those career advancement opportunities that have additional compensation would be provided for them if they chose to participate in that. And those are opportunities that we don't offer our dispatchers here in Daly City. So in terms of providing more than adequate opportunity for the dispatchers to continue to provide a service for Daly City, albeit working for the county, but dispatching for Daly City for our police officers, or potentially for our fire department, they can continue to contribute to the public safety and well-being of this community. Now I want to talk a little bit about what's in the agreement specifically regarding the fiscal impact. And I know that the council all has a copy of the agreement. And so we're going to be referring to Section 3, which is basically that portion of the agreement that talks about the fee for services that would be provided. And then we can go into the various services that will be provided from that fee. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Christine Frost, our Deputy Finance Director, to review the numbers. She has done the fiscal analysis of the county's proposal. She has also assisted our dispatchers with their proposal, which they have worked together to offer a status quo proposal in terms of an in-house alternative to the county. She's worked on that, provided them with the numbers, and I'm sure you'll be hearing about their proposal later this evening. So she's familiar with all the details regarding our current in-house system, and now we'll be providing a comparison for you regarding our in-house system and what's being offered and the county's proposal.
Hi, good evening. My first slide actually is a listing for your information of what the County Public Safety Communications Center provides 911 dispatch
The
to.
only independent police departments that outsource the county.
You're down to 5 now, Peter.
Are Broadmoor and
Peter.
East Palo Alto.
Peter,
That's not true.
Peter,
That
you're
slide
down to
is not
5,
true.
okay?
That's
you-
Mike Halliday. Mike,
can you
stand up.
play-
No. East Palo Alto and Broadmoor.
going,
Welcome
keep
to
going,
Daly City.
keep going.
That's who you're joining.
Keep going.
East Palo Alto and Broadmoor.
You're down to 4 minutes now, Peter.
God bless you, Sal.
Have some
There's
respect.
been no
for
democracy
what
in
we're
this
doing,
whole
okay?
process, so
There is a
go
lot
ahead
of
and
democracy
eliminate all
if
my
you
minutes,
just
Sal.
learn to stay quiet.
Go back to
Then
that
if you
slide.
get
It's
the
not true.
democracy, Peter, you're down to 4 minutes now. I'm serious.
Eliminate my minutes, Sal.
Fine,
Doesn't
I
matter.
will.
You're a
Go ahead.
joke.
Go.
So this table is a cost comparison between the county proposal and the staffing model proposed by the Teamster Union. These numbers are in millions. And the first line of showing the 5-year costs basically represents the costs, the amount that the city would pay to the county for a total of $7.4 million. This includes dispatch services, which you can find in the contract, and also includes warrant processing services that is also included in the proposed county agreement. This staffing model would, the county proposal would eliminate 14 full-time positions and would save us $10.7 million over the 5-year contract with the county. In addition to
Could
that.
you say that again? Just say
This
those
10
words
point-
again.
This 10.7, we would reduce out of the budget. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong side, but
That's okay.
yeah. And we would eliminate 14 full-time positions. Those positions are 2 dispatch supervisors, 11 dispatchers, and 1 records clerk. Out of all those positions, there are now 4 vacancies. There is 1 vacant supervisor, 2 dispatchers that are vacant, and the records clerk is vacant. So that's it for full-time positions. The city would still have to pay $1.3 million in technology and support costs, which are pretty much fixed and things that we would still pay ongoing, and eliminate an additional $0.4 million of other non-salary costs. So as a subtotal for the county proposal and consolidating with the county, we would reduce total expense by $9.8 million. And so offsetting that with the 7.4 that we would pay to the county, we would have a net savings to the general fund of 2.4 million. Okay. To review with you the Teamster proposal, the 5-year costs of staffing and technology and other costs totals $11.4 million. So to break that down, the 9.8 you see on the second line of the chart represents staffing for half of a civilian manager, 2 dispatch supervisors that are in the rotation and working, and 10 dispatchers. So it would be a total of 12.5 FTE, and the current model is now 13 full-time positions. The big difference between the staffing expense, if we were to consolidate, and the Teamster proposal really is that we would be adding half a civilian manager. We would be, in the consolidation model, eliminating a records clerk, since we're contracting out with them the the warrants processing piece. And we would also reduce the dispatch count from 11 to 10. So in the union proposal, we would have 10 dispatchers, whereas right now the model is there's 11 dispatchers.
And the contract includes those 11 spots, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe so.
I believe the contract says there's capacity to hire all.
Right.
yes,
Right.
yes, that's what, I did read
Including
that.
the 2 dispatch supervisors?
There's only one.
Oh.
So hopefully this slide provides you the detail of what I kind of went over in the table, where it shows how the 14 full-time positions comprise of the 2 supervisors, 11 dispatchers, and the 1 records clerk. So if we were to stay in-house and not consolidate with the county, we would keep on the books that, as part of the budget, it does not include that records clerk. It doesn't put it into play. So altogether, we would reduce expense by 11.1 million and pay fees to the city of 7.4 million.
The county.
Oh, I'm sorry, to the county. So in that 7.4 million, it's broken down.
Can I ask, so if we reduce the expense by 11.1, but pay 7.4, then we have a net, you're gonna do the net later, what the net savings is, or?
Yeah, it's 2.4.
2.4.
2.4.
So,
2.4 million.
so over the 5-year term, the net savings is 2.4 million a year. And what does that equate annually? I'm just curious.
It's about 0.3 to 0.4 million a year.
It's right here
0.3.
in your packet.
Yeah, I got it. So it's,
DJ, it's
yeah, I
right
see it.
here
Yeah,
in
so
your
it's,
packet.
so it's what, around 300,000 a year? Okay.
It escalates over the 5-year period.
No, 3,
I'll let you look
0.4
at it.
million to
right
0.6
there.
million. And,
Yeah,
and it escalates over year to year.
got it. So it's, okay.
The first year, the savings are less because we're having to pay the one-time setup fee for the warrants processing, so that's an
Right.
additional 25,000. There's a few one-time costs in the first year, so that reduces the savings to the level of about 0.4, about 400,000. But then, at that point, we begin to realize the savings, and it begins to escalate every year thereafter until the year the 5-year total is 2.5 million. In the 5th year, it would be 681,000.
And Dispatcher Joanne Rooney can list a lot of services that are not gonna be provided, that
Unbelievable.
you're gonna have to pay.
You know what? If you don't respect us, at least respect the city employees who work and prepared this.
You don't respect the safety
Peter,
of
you're
the
down to
public.
3.
We'll just-
Okay, you're down to 3. You're only making yourself look bad. Okay, just 3 minutes now.
You're paying
Keep
yourself,
going.
Sal.
Keep going.
This next slide details out the proposal from the union and includes an additional half FTE of a manager, non-sworn, which would be in addition to the budget, and maintain staffing of 2 dispatch supervisors that would be included in the rotation. And it does reduce the current staffing model from 11 dispatchers to 10. There's a slight decrease in technology and support costs, only because we have to pay an additional, I think it's 0.1 million over the course of the contract to the county for support.
And so this technology support would be supporting our analog system. It would not be providing any digital.
Not at this point in
Right.
time.
I'm
However,
talking,
and we do have the county representative here. The goal would be to migrate to the digital
Right.
system.
what this is the keep them here model.
Right.
Yeah. So we would stay analog here under this
Yes,
proposal.
under this
Okay.
proposal, under the union proposal, it would be the status quo. It would be exactly what we have now. So, since the issue was just raised about what is not included, I want to call your attention to this document I handed out to you. This document is a compilation of 63 different comments, concerns, assertions, allegations, questions that have been raised by a variety of the stakeholder groups, including the union, including Daryl Jones in his report. And what we have done is we have consolidated all of those questions and concerns and assertions and allegations and whatnot that have arisen through this process. And we've included them in this matrix. And we've documented the source of first what the issue is, then the source of that information, and particularly the costs that are associated with the questions or assertions that are being made. If you go to the county, it will not include this, and therefore there will be this cost, or therefore there will be additional staff. So we have taken every single one of those known questions, which are 63 of them, and we have gone through each and every one of them and sat down with the county and gotten a response from the county on each and every one of them. And got the county's commitment about how they were going to address the issue, who was going to be responsible for the cost, how that cost might be shared, all of the various details, so that the questions that have been raised are not going unanswered. And as you will see, if you look at all of the different questions, and if, I wasn't planning to go through each and every one, but if you want me to go through every one, we'll do that. There is a response, there is a positive response to all of them. The questions that have been raised about the need for many more additional personnel have not proven to be true, because the services that were indicated were required by additional personnel to be hired if we went to the county. The county has absorbed those services as part of this agreement. And so the additional costs associated with that, particularly, I'll give you an example, the warrants. Both the union and Mr. Jones in his report indicated that if we went to the county, that someone would still have to be responsible for providing for the warrant services, which meant that we would have to hire an additional records clerk. We don't have to do that. With the $50,000 that we're going to pay the sheriff's office to do the warrant service for us, we actually will eliminate a records clerk position. So in this document, it shows all of those various questions that have been raised about what we would do, how it would affect what we do in-house as a result of having police dispatch moved to the county. And I think if you go through all of these, and as I said, if you want me to, if there are specific questions you have, we'll respond to it. We can go through them individually. However the council would like to, ensure that there's transparency about how these questions have been responded to by the county and how we've incorporated them into the agreement that you have in front of you, as well as the exhibit that's attached to it that specifically responds to each and every one of these issues.
I have a question on item 13, the confirm, which you just talked about, the confirm update warrant. So it's an annual fee of, it's highlighted, annual fee of $50,000 plus one-time conversion fee of $25,536.
Correct.
What would that position be costed out otherwise? If we were to,
It would be twice that. Oh, well, of 50,000.
Yeah, it's about 102.
102. So it would be twice the $50,000 annual fee for the position.
okay, thank you.
If this goes to the agenda, can you just make this part of the packet?
Yes, we can. So with that, I want to review once again the benefits that can be achieved if the council were to direct staff to move forward with this agreement with the County of San Mateo's Public Safety Communications Center. First of all, there will be no service level impact to our residents or to response times. No impact to response times or the service that the public receives. It will be seamless. They won't even know that calls are being received in Redwood City. There will be no negative impacts on police officer safety. You've heard it from the chief, you've heard it from Captain Gamez. None of us would be providing this proposal to the council for consideration if we in any way felt that officer safety was something that we should be concerned about. We're going to be able to enhance the services that we have available through an economy of scale by being part of a larger operation. Simply being the largest police department, being the largest city, does not mean that we can afford the best public communications center. We provide what we are able to provide with the resources that we have available. But the economy of scale that can be achieved by joining the county is something that has been recognized across this country. And as I have mentioned before, this is a best practice. This is a best practice among municipalities across this country. They are consolidating cities' dispatch centers at the county level to achieve that same economy of scale, provide greater efficiency and cost effectiveness, and not having a negative impact on service to the public. If it didn't work, it wouldn't be a best practice across the country. And I think that we should take advantage of the opportunity to have that best practice applied here. We also gain the benefit of a state-of-the-art communications facilities that will offer us technology improvements at a fraction of the cost that it would be for the city if we were to try and maintain our own in-house communications center. The overarching proposal that we have received provides taxpayer savings. So from the comparison that you saw, the proposal, very well intended, that the union has put forward to try and maintain an in-house communications center at $11 million, $11.4 million versus $7 million for a more adequate public safety dispatch operation with the county at $4 million less a year. That savings that we could achieve, that $2.5 million over the 5 years, over 5 years.
100,000 less a year, that's what I said.
And I have a question. How many,
The savings that we would have can be redirected to other priorities in the city. And I think that from a taxpayer perspective, that as long as the service is equal or better than what we have, and we can achieve those savings and redirect those resources to other important programs and services in the city, that we should
What happens after 5
seriously
years?
be
They charge you
looking at
whatever they
those
want.
issues.
They have full control.
You're down to a minute. Pretty soon you'll be down to
No,
negative.
I don't care, obviously.
You obviously don't care, which is kind of sad for your reps. You know, for the people you represent, you don't care about them
You
at all.
don't care about the people we
I
represent.
do care, but you're not
You
letting it
listen
happen.
cheap.
Okay, you're out of time. Too bad, Peter. Too bad.
So at this point in time, I would like to ask Mr. Callahan to step up to the podium, because I know that he wants to reinforce the process that we have gone through to identify all of these various issues that I mentioned in this matrix, and to address them in a positive way.
Sal, does he get 10 minutes?
Can you please stop, okay? Can you just stop? I'm asking you nicely, Peter, to just stop, okay? Just stop. Go ahead, Mr. Callaghan.
So this is our Assistant County Manager, Mike Callaghan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Mike Callaghan, Assistant County Manager. First, I want to say, again, that you have terrific dispatchers. We have terrific dispatchers. Our goal is to provide the highest and best dispatch services, not only in this county, but in the state. And we want to bring that technological edge to dispatching. We want to hire your dispatchers, and they will have a job with us if they pass the background, which I'm sure they will. And just, I was a former deputy police chief. The police chief is now our director of communications from Burlingame, Ed Wood, and we all had to go through the same background check when we came to the county. It's simply a process that everyone has to go through. I'm sure that they will all pass and be part of that dispatch family. We are going to have a state-of-the-art communication center, And this is a center that I want to be second to none. We want to bring the latest technology. We want to bring the future technology. We want to provide the highest and best service to your customers, who we will consider our customers, to your constituents, who will be our customers. That is the business that we are in. That is what we do for Millbrae, for Half Moon Bay, for Broadmoor, for East Palo Alto, and for every other unincorporated area in this county. We are already dispatching for your EMS and fire, and I think that we do a very, very good job. I'm proud of the job that we do there, and I'd be proud to have your dispatchers join us, and they will have jobs. This is good government. This is how we can leverage what we are doing together in an effort to save money, but I believe while not compromising any of the safety in this community that this community has enjoyed, or the service to the police officers who will be out there on the street and who dispatch is their lifeline. We do that every day. This is our business. I am happy, Ms. Martell went over all of it, so I don't want to go over that again. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have. I can tell you we worked collaboratively. We sat down at the table. We rolled up our sleeves. We worked on this together. We want this to work for the city of Daly City. We want you to be proud of us, and I hope as we look back, if this does come to fruition and we look back, we say that this was an outstanding choice because of the level of service that we can provide, and because of the dispatchers that we can bring on, and because of the depth of coverage that we can bring this city on any type of incident that this city may encounter. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do you guys have any questions?
I have a question. At the previous presentation, at a council meeting, it was stated that that California has indicated that when they are going to start funding technology upgrades, that they're going to make a priority out of police and fire departments that have consolidated. They'll be at the top of the list. Is that true? Have you heard that?
I have heard that. I can't say it's true for sure, but I got to believe that is who they'll prioritize. It makes perfect sense for those who leverage resources and provide the best and most service to the most people would get that priority. But I mean that is what we have observed.
With the governor, it's never a guarantee. We all know that.
Exactly.
Because I'm concerned about. There was a gentleman in the crowd at the last meeting that says we can't be thinking about the next 5 years. We need to be thinking about the next 30 years.
Right.
And I won't be here, but the rest of you will be. And we want to make sure that that kind of technology keeps getting upgraded.
Absolutely.
Because it's real important to me about the wireless, your cell phone.
Right.
Because within another 5 or 6 years, everyone's going to have a cell phone. Landlines are going to basically be gone.
Absolutely.
And I read in the contract that that's specific, that there would be ability to locate people by their cell phones.
Absolutely. And I mean, technology is changing exponentially. We all know that. But the ability to text the 911, to send videos in to dispatch centers, to be able to find out information simply on someone's cell phone where they live if they're not, if they don't have that ability to say where they live, to receive those text messages and then send officers accordingly. That technology is there, but we want to be the next generation. What I envision is a dispatch center that is really intelligence-based, where we can connect crimes throughout the county, and we can tell police departments as calls are coming in, are you aware that this also, this MO may have occurred in East Palo Alto, or this crime is similar to one in a different jurisdiction, where we can do an in-depth analysis of those calls coming in and try to give the officers responding to those calls all the background on that place that they're going to, that house that they're going to, in an effort to provide them with the highest and best safety as they enter those type of situations. And then connect crime throughout the county. There's no reason that we can't do this intelligence-based policing from one stop.
Thank you.
I have a question. Thank you very much for your presentation. On item 40, or line item 40 on the county dispatch proposal, I just wanted to get some clarity. It says, can PSC handle call volume without charging the city? What I noticed in the cost It says average call volume may dictate future costs. Are you talking about within the term of the 5-year contract? Can you expand that or explain that to me? Yeah. Yeah.
That was the initial, that was the initial response to that question. The final response is to the far
Okay.
right-hand column.
So so the answer is, PSC has the capacity to handle all 911 and 7-digit non-emergency calls as part of the basic service.
That's correct.
Services, correct?
Absolutely.
And then the item underneath that, just if you can clarify that for me, John, the 6-month target for changeover if contract is approved.
So I met with the director and asked him to give me a realistic timeline if this moves forward, to do it properly, not taking any rushing or taking steps that would not make this product work. And he assured me that the 6-month timeline from the time of execution of a contract till operational changeover he was comfortable with.
Got it, okay.
The last time we were here, we had some ambiguity around what happens after 5 years in terms of the cost. Can you shed some light on what are we looking at? I know we have to renegotiate like we do most contracts, but
Absolutely.
what would we typically be looking at?
Let me first say that we want this to be a long-term relationship, much like we are enjoying right now with fire and EMS. It's really of no interest to us to try to get a department into a short-term contract, 5-year contract, and then try to gouge them. That's just not what we do. That's not how we operate. You can go back to the organizations that we contract with now. We always work with them. I always want to be able to save Daly City money on communications. It's just good government to leverage it. So the contract spells that out. We will renegotiate the contract, and if for some reason we can't, in a timely manner, do it, that 6-year is just a cost of living increase that is adjusted up to continue the contract while we continue to negotiate. I also want to say that we've included, in this contract.
That would be based on CPI.
CPI, I'm sorry, yeah. And I just also want to say that we have given Daly City, an out in this contract where we don't have one. We are that confident that we can do the job and that we can do it very well. We've given Daly City a 6-month out anytime they would like it. We do not have that same luxury. We are here for the long term. We want a 30 years. I'm sorry?
For convenience, anytime?
For whatever you want, yeah, forever would
It
come up.
says, without a requirement of good cause.
For anything you want. We want to
can
be
try
here.
it, we can, yeah,
We want to be your provider for 30 years.
on page 3.
Once you get rid of dispatch, you can't reconstitute though, you know that.
Mike,
Any other question, Brian?
fill out a card, sign, simple as that. Go ahead, keep going.
Mike, I have a question about the future capacity of the dispatch center. A lot has been made about the money that you're spending on it, and what your future goals are for expansion. And I want to know specifically, what effect will your expansion to other cities, to other jurisdictions, have on services in Daly City? And have you taken into account what effect more people, more cities, more jurisdictions will have in your current, in what you're doing now?
Absolutely. It's a good question. We want to make sure that if we do grow, we grow smartly. We want to make sure that it's measured, and that we don't compromise any of our services to anyone. Certainly, we have in-place contracts now that we want to serve and will continue to serve, and those are the highest priority to us now before we go out and look for anyone else. Will we have the ability to someday contract with every city in the county, should they choose to go that route? Absolutely, we will have the space. That is not saying that we'll have the ability to do that, though, or the desire to do that. It'll depend on the situation and the circumstances. It does, when everyone is competing for dispatchers, it's certainly more difficult to get dispatchers because it's a very unique trait that they possess that allow them to be dispatchers. And when everyone's competing for those same dispatchers, it's very difficult. The more we consolidate, the better chance we would have to capture those dispatchers in one location. But certainly, we have no interest in expanding. We have an interest right now in providing the best services to those departments who we work with or will work with in the future.
And as Judith had said, I want to expand on what Judith had said regarding the federal government and future policy considerations, such as whether or not the federal government would be more apt to want to fund a consolidation, a collaboration between different jurisdictions, and whether or not that may have an effect on our future costs. If it's going to involve your bottom line, would you then pass that savings on to us?
Absolutely, that'd be our intention. I mean, it's just, again, we're not in this to make money. This is good government. We want to provide the best service to all our customers, and we hope that you're one of those customers and your constituents are.
Mike, can you provide a little background on sort of how many calls you take in dispatch right now for the various jurisdictions, various cities?
I would have to turn to my colleagues who are there on a day-to-day basis, and I think that they'd be better situated to, who would? Jamie Young, she's a co-director of dispatch, will come up and provide that information.
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. We dispatch about 295,000 calls annually. 65% of those are law enforcement oriented, about 28% around fire, and the balance around EMS, and then miscellaneous for public works, animal control, and a lot of the on-call services that we provide.
Great. And what are the cities you provide service to again? Just if you could run me through
So
them.
the independent contracts that we have are for the cities of Broadmoor and San Carlos, Millbrae, Half Moon Bay, and East Palo Alto.
Got it.
And those are, it's a little confusing as East Palo Alto and Broadmoor are separate contracts with Public Safety Communications and their entities. The other cities are also independent contracts, but those are services that are provided by the sheriff.
Got it.
But yet we still do a separate contract with the city. It doesn't go through the sheriff's contract.
Wonderful.
So they're independent of each
And then
other.
how many calls do we receive a year? I'm just curious. Me being the city of Daly City.
In the last study from the last proposal the county did, Ms. Young provided a statistical analysis that said the average call volume per year was 23,550, which excluded business phone management. So that's 911 and 7.
Okay,
Those are that'll be telephone calls. So last analysis that I did on Daly City was around 83,000 CAD incidents. And generally, around 24,000 of those are 911. And of that, I can just tell you an average of those calls, about 65% are coming from cellular devices.
Got it. And so what's the total of that?
Pardon me?
What's the total? Because the number you provided for, you said there's 225,000 calls for those other cities. And what's our total number of calls, John? You're saying it's only 23,000?
Those are telephone calls. Generated incidents are between 75 and 80,000 per year on average. Those are both proactively
so-
generated incidents.
So what happens is that for 911 calls for the 24,000, that will create an incident in CAD, and that gets documented and statted. So that's part of the 83,000. The other calls, the balance of those calls are generally self-initiated activities from the officers in the field, and that gets statted as well. And any other service that is an activity in the dispatch center, like on-call services, after hours, weekends. So anything that it represents workload, a dispatcher will enter a call and say, you have a officer so-and-so, you have a telephone call, and they might enter that into the CAD system, and it goes out to their mobile or something like that. So it just depends upon what statistics you're gathering, but for the most part, the 83,000 is the number that we got from Daly City, which are CAD incidents.
And how many dispatchers do you have on your staff right now?
We have a total of 44.
So you have a total of 44 dispatchers to deal with 283,000 calls.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Anything else?
No, you can just.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Wood, I'm sure you got a question.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So, let me just say that I have been patiently listening, and I tried to steer this in the direction last time, which is, I think the emphasis on tonight's meeting has been again about money. And I tried to steer the direction last time talking about public safety. I think that we are still, which costs and money are an important factor, but it shouldn't be the overwhelming. I think the overwhelming number one factor should be the public safety issue. Now, please, let me finish. For you to tell me that I don't need to worry that there is no effect on public safety, that's not an argument. That is just a statement. There is nothing, you are not telling me anything to persuade me that the public safety won't be compromised, other than just saying there's not going to have an impact. That to me is not a persuasive argument to me. And it also seems that the theme to maybe justify why you think this might not have an effect is you're comparing police and fire. You're comparing, and to me, fire and police are totally different animals. Okay, I'll give you an example. When you have a call, let's say, a 211 in progress, a robbery in progress, that's a very different call than a fire call, right? I mean, you have the constant volume of incoming the dispatchers are dealing with, then I'm not diminishing what a fire call is. Would you agree with me?
Or life and death.
Yeah, I would agree they're different, yes.
So that puts
But
us.
there's a very big difference as well, council member, between a fire call, which
And
we do
medical.
very few of, and medical emergencies, which we do quite a few of. And the life and death issues related to emergency medical calls can be as serious
I'm not
as
saying they're
police
not
calls.
serious. I'm just saying they are two different calls. A 211 call, a robbery in progress, you got the constant back and forth between police and dispatch, trying to identify where the perpetrator is, trying to make that determination, and having that constant back and forth, and the dispatchers knowing what their neighborhood is about, what their city is about, and I don't,
The same can be very true with medical
I'm not
emergencies.
talking about, I'm talking, you are, see, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to lump it in and say they're the same. They're not, and that's my point. They are two different animals. Now, I get the part about you, we all want to save money. But public safety, in my opinion, has not been discussed nearly enough. You're all about money, about trying to save money, and to just make a blanket statement to say that public safety won't be affected, that's not enough for me. I need to know more. I need to know more information, why that is. And it shouldn't be just because fire seems to be working out, or dispatch with that. So please, help me with that, and trying to convince me that public safety is not an issue. And the other thing I wanted to ask about is the CAD system. Is there a CAD system for fire? No.
No.
Right.
Well,
There is, so it's two different animals again.
for fire. There
Do
is-
we have one here?
Our fire department,
The county does it.
the fire department has a CAD system.
All right, and here's the other thing. This is what I hope my colleagues would try to think about. When the county says that we have a way out, or, after 5 years we can negotiate, we really can't. After 5 years, we're going to have an empty space there. There's no technology. So we're really talking about something that could last in perpetuity. This is not really a 5-year deal. I mean, we're not going to be able to ramp up in a very short amount of time if we decided to cancel the contract. So it's just going to be the way it is. And I think that for the...
Question?
Yeah.
Are you proposing we should have a longer term?
No, I'm not. I'm proposing that we don't do it, period. That's my...
I have a question. I want to make sure that people at home and people here understand that the county is a not-for-profit government agency. This is not, we're not outsourcing this to another country. We're not outsourcing to somebody who wants to make a profit. So we're all, government, excuse me.
Go through, come on.
You want this seat, you get elected. And please do. Now, the problem, I think, is a lot of people are confusing. They're thinking, well, the county is going to gouge us. They're going to try to get money. We're all government, and we're all in this together, whether we're at the federal level, the state level, the county level, or the local level. So it's a different, it's not a profit-making deal. The other thing I wanted to bring up is I was very concerned when the discussion came up about the calls that we get. 65% of our calls are cell phones. That's a lot of people that nobody knows where they are.
Hold on. If you need to speak, fill out a card, I'll call you up. Are you done? Judith, are you done?
Yes, I am.
All right. Are you done with the presentation?
Yes, we are.
I've only got 4 cards. Is that all? You've only got 4 cards? Can you bring your cards up if you want to speak? Remember, you have a minute. For those of you that came in late, I'll repeat myself again. Normally, traditionally at a study session, there is usually no public comment. But because of the issue, we're going to allow public comment now at a study session of a minute long. If it goes to a public hearing, there will be opportunity to speak there again. Okay? Do you have any more questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I get someone to, do you know how to do that? Does he know? Oh, you got the time? Okay. So please follow the city clerk's timing here. And please respect the city clerk's request for you to stop speaking after a minute. Okay, Thelma Coffey. Thelma Coffey. Annette, just let her know when you're ready. Okay? Hi, Thelma.
Hi.
Thank you.
My name is Thelma Coffey. I'm a dispatcher for Daly City Police. Didn't plan on speaking today, but listening to some of the things that were being said, don't agree with it whatsoever. You said that we have no staff because we have a hiring freeze put on us. You won't allow us to hire anyone, and you haven't allowed us to hire anyone in the last 6 years. You're setting us up to fail, is what you're doing. We don't have per diems that cover our shifts. We cover the shifts. Per diems have not covered any shifts in over a year. We work sometimes 16-hour days with no breaks. We come on our days off to cover the shifts. And as far as I know, and I know my fellow coworkers will agree with me, we haven't been on the verge to flip over to county, or flip the switch as we call it, because we are always here to cover our shifts. We cover each other. There's only 8 of us that work 12-hour shifts. We're here all the time, working our butts off to cover this city.
Thanks, Thelma. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, my
Karen
minute's up?
Goff? Karen Goff? Karen Goff, I said a minute.
God bless you guys.
All right.
Yeah, you too, Peter. Karen Goff.
So is there like a light or?
She's gonna,
You're just
the city
gonna-
clerk here is gonna let you
okay.
know. When you hear the bell, then you're done. Thanks, Karen. Go ahead.
Okay, ready? Okay. I want to start off by saying I appreciate you allowing us to speak. I do understand that that's different, and I personally really appreciate it. I wasn't planning on speaking either, but I think what touched me mostly as I was listening to this is there was a lot of talk about technology. And although I think it's important, I think the most important thing that we're not talking about is service and people. I work for the police department, and I do hear the calls, and what our dispatchers do in the back and forth with our officers is so important. I'm sure county does a very good job, but there's just no way that those county employees are going to know our streets, our schools, the things that are going on, where our officers are headed and what they're talking about. It's so important to public safety, and I just think that that's being missed here. The other thing is, I have to say, what Councilmember Buenaventura was talking about is that I truly believe that once you make this decision, there's no going back. It's easy to say, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do this. But once they pull the plug on our comm center, there's no going back.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it. Jesse Hedman?
I'm not going to debate the numbers. I'm not going to debate county's ability because we've worked with county. We all know that they're good dispatchers. But the simple fact is, I've been here 13 years and I know a lot more than you do, Ms. Martell, about what these officers need and what these citizens need. And the truth is, what they need is dispatchers who know the streets, who know their badge numbers and who know their names. I said it last time. It is all about officer safety, and I just don't think you can put a number on an officer's life. I'm sorry, but they put on a badge every night knowing they may not go home to their families, and that's our job. We're first responders as well, so you guys need to consider that when thinking about giving your officers away to another agency. It's that simple. I don't understand why this is confusing or where all of your loyalty is, but your loyalty belongs to the officers that defend you and protect you every day. And we're a major part of that, and we're the ones that keep them safe. We're the initial responders on scene. We're there before the officers are. We're the eyes and we're the ears when they're not there and they don't know what's going on.
I just have Mrs. Popper.
Yes.
Good afternoon or good evening. I want to let you know I'm against any outsourcing. I had very bad experience personally with AAA by them outsourcing to San Francisco when something is in San Bruno because the dispatcher didn't know the neighborhood. I want to thank the 911 operators for saving my husband's life twice. They were so efficient. Within 5 minutes, they were at our front door, and they managed to keep me calm, so I'm really against it. Safety comes first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Sonny Kinikini.
I'm Sonny Kinikini from the Franciscan Mobile Home Community. 501 homes, easily about 3,000 to 4,000 citizens of this magnificent city. And every day they're exposed to crime and any kind of danger that needs competent dispatching job. I'm deeply disturbed by what I see from the discussion here. Definitely management failure when it came to the hiring into those positions that are vacant. So right now we have 1 supervisor's position vacant and 2 dispatchers vacant. Now I hear there was a freezing on the employment. Now, why were they not filled up if there is such a need? So you have this mismanagement, and your answer is subcontract the whole troops. Is that right? I don't think that's right. You folks failed to do your job. That's what it is, and you're continually not performing your job. And you ought to be responsible and be ashamed of this.
Joanne Rooney. Joanne Rooney.
And Kiara Root filled out a form, so I'm going to use her minute. So if I could use the 2 minutes if possible. So my name is Joanne Rooney. I'm a dispatcher with Daly City for the past 15 years. I'm the shop steward also. I just wanted to, bring back some comments that were said, just to clarify. It was said that we cost $2 million a year. Well, per the city report, the first year is only $1,768,000, and it goes to $1,008,000, $1,009,000. So it's not $2 million a year in cost every year. Total cost to go to county, the 5-year plan that they broke up is $7,050,000. That does not include the $1,273,000 the city still has to pay in tech costs. Keep that in mind. You have another $1,273,000. $300,000 to pay off the dispatchers and vacation comp and time, and also $250,000 for an outsourcing of a warrants program. Those all add up. That's not $7 million is not the total cost. The potential costs, I read the contract, and it says that there's many comments where it says they will need to reevaluate to offset costs. Number one, phone tree. Who's paying for this phone tree? The city's paying for the phone tree. I got 2 minutes.
Give her another minute.
Dispatching for special events, it also says in it that we will have to reevaluate it to offset the costs. So there's all these additional costs that are going to come into play. After 5 years, like it was said, there's no guarantee of how much it's going to cost. You're getting a huge deal right now, just like those balloon mortgages. 5 years, guess what's going to happen? You may have to pay $10 million, $12 million. You're going to have to pay it. We won't be here anymore. The union contract did not mention getting rid, and I want to clarify that to the records clerks. We never said to get rid of a records clerk, ever. We have never said to get rid of one other employee, so I just want our people back there to know. They said it was a union thing. That is not. We would never do that to our own people. Comparing other agencies using county, just want to note that the 7 agencies that use county right now, their total population of all 7 is less than Daly City's. Huge difference. And we have 100+ officers. They probably don't even have half of that for total because they use the SO and then the Broadmoor. Our staffing levels are short because we're frozen, but we have never once had to roll over to county, and you guys can vouch for that. We have never once rolled over. We have never once had an extension of our response time or our call times. And just one thing regarding the 65% of the cell phone calls, how many people have house phones anymore?
All right.
All your calls are cell phone calls.
Len Sylvester?
Thank you. I had an agenda, but I just want to rebut some of the things I heard tonight. First of all, the California mandate is 10 seconds for a response. How have we been doing in Daly City? Per diem staffing costs. Well, of course, you have to pay per diem at time and a half. Why can't we hire someone extra to take over that time? The county has offered to hire these dispatchers. Well, all these dispatchers are post-certified, so they can go anywhere in the state of California, show their post certificate, just like a police officer can do. And then I see a part here about compensation. Compensation, when the dispatchers can go down there and get paid more and they got better opportunities, well, why not ask them why they don't leave here? Why not ask our police officers why they don't leave Daly City, even though they get paid less? Ask them. There has to be something in there. And I find it interesting that Redwood City has put out an announcement for dispatchers. They're hiring. They're looking for dispatchers. These folks have already been trained. That's why they want them so bad. And the city of Palo Alto is hiring. It's all out there, folks. Please, think about it. Thank you.
Pamela DeGiovanni?
Okay, honorable everybody, and I respect obviously the officers here because I do a lot with the anti-human trafficking, but I want to point out to the public that there's no representative here saying that the Daly City Police Officers Association opposes this outsourcing. We have representatives at the higher level, but not them to say that, so I'm not trying to speak for them, but it's my opportunity to do that. Also, second point is the cost savings is only $300,000 per year, no guarantee after 5-year contract. As the people have said, that could be the balloon cost, just like the housing industry. We don't have, third, we don't have any facts, as Councilmember Buenaventura said, that we don't have any, show me facts there's going to be negative impacts. When I've made several calls here for non-emergency calls, I've called the or whatever, they've done, and recently there was a scuffle inside a Safeway and I was in line checking out. The response time was quick because it was here. There's no guarantee that this will not eventually turn into a county sheriff's area in the future as well.
Thanks,
And
ma'am.
also,
Pam, thank you.
1 minute, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Keith Hedman?
Just like to address a couple of items that were brought up towards the end. One, absolutely police and fire calls and EMS calls aren't in the same game. These guys going out on the street, pull somebody over, you've got a 15-minute chase, you've got all kinds of shots fired, everything else. You don't have that on the other calls because the police go in and clear the call for EMS before they get there. Secondly, I would like you to remember one thing. County's not doing it for free. If they were, they could take your numbers and do it exactly for that. They're salesmen. No offense, men, gentlemen, ladies. No offense. They are salesmen coming in to sell you something that then the operations people are going to have to pick up and take over. And you have tactical dispatchers and SWAT teams and emergency teams here in this city already, trained by this city, certified by the state of California. Don't throw all that away. Use them and get them proper staffing.
Thanks, Mr. Hammond. Thank you. Trish Blundstrom.
Hello, Council. Trish, Teamsters 856. Can you guys take a look at this yellow form Peter passed out to you guys? It kind of gives you the overall budget from last year. If you look for all funds, with governmental funds and general funds combined, the city saved $16.4 million of an extra expenses. Governmental funds, you had a surplus of $10.4 million. In general funds, a surplus of $3.8 million. So we just want to know what the urgency of outsourcing to save $300,000 approximately a year in the next 5 years if we have such big surpluses. Thank you.
Elaine Francisco.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm a teacher at Jefferson Elementary School District, and I teach special needs population. We have about 500 students at risk, and if you can really prove, if there's data here that would say that my students will not be at risk, if we call 911 and you can track our students who may run and who may have an accident, then I will go for it. But please provide me data. Thank you.
Thank you. Marion Mann.
I'm just an ordinary citizen. I have nothing to do with the PD. But where it says no service level impact the residents or response time, this is wrong. Many of you know my grandson Tyler. When we called 911 and had to have the response to a 2-block long residence, they were there in time to save his life. And to me, if I live in Daly City, I want my grandchildren to be safe. I'm sorry. I don't care how much money we save or whatever, but it's more important to me as a citizen, and I have nothing to do with these people, is that I'm sorry, my grandson was saved by the emergency people in Daly City that would not have been saved because he had exactly 2 minutes left before he would have died, and they got there. I'm sorry. I have to support this.
Thanks. Okay, I have no more cards.
I just
so,
would like to ask Marion a question, a short one.
Let me go Ms. Christensen and then Mr. Canada.
Marion, was it medical people who came to your son, grandson?
It was fire department.
Yes, they are dispatched by the county.
Also, the PD was there. That's right.
Okay.
Really,
Thanks, Mayor. We got it. We got it.
Enough.
We got it. Go ahead, Mr. Canada.
You know, I have a couple questions. I looked through this matrix, and there's this sort of person that's, I'm looking at the Daryl Jones report. Is Daryl Jones here?
Yes.
Would you mind if I asked Daryl Jones a couple questions, Mr. Torres?
Go ahead.
My name is Daryl Jones. I was retained by the police department. First, I was requested to prepare a detailed scope of work, which I did. We went through a few iterations.
Can I interrupt you?
Certainly.
What's your background?
My background, born and raised in Daly City. Started my law enforcement career as a police explorer here. Moved out of Daly City when I was 25 years old. Was a police officer in Broadmoor for many years. Have an engineering background from College of San Mateo and a public administration background from Golden Gate University. All the clients in San Mateo County are cities.
How many cities do you have, Mr. Jones?
We support Daly City down through Mountain View, so we have a few in Santa Clara. These are long-term relationships. We've had most of our clients for 20 years plus. And
how many cities? Just curious.
I believe there are about 20.
So you service
22.
20 cities right now?
Yes.
Okay.
And we do not sell hardware. We're not in the business of selling equipment. We provide services, advice, and 24/7 management and support services.
Do you repair equipment?
We have a staff of 10 people, and 24/7, For all of the police departments in the county and the countywide fire radio system, we are the people that respond to maintain those systems so they're always online and working.
Those are the analog systems, right?
We do analog here, we do digital systems elsewhere. But in San Mateo County, we highly recommend the analog technology.
Thank you.
Let me interrupt you real quick. So you did a report for the city. Did the city of Daly City contract you to do a report? What was the scope of the report, and what were your conclusions?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing is there was some, I'll use the term allegations, that we provided work that was outside of the scope of our initial work. And that's not true. Ms. Martell, could you pass that to Councilmember, please?
Thank you.
This is a copy of the scope of work that we prepared. There were several iterations of it. And this is what we contracted for and were asked to proceed with. And we delivered exactly what was in that scope of work. We didn't exceed it. We didn't go off on our own tangent. We did what we were contracted to do.
Can you talk a little bit about the scope of work that you were asked to do?
Certainly. The scope of work included determining costs related to maintaining and upgrading the existing infrastructure that's getting old. We projected those costs for 5 years. We also looked at costs related to going to the county for dispatch, what the technology costs would be to extend the analog radio systems to the county and to provide features at the county that would be similar to what the Daly City dispatchers have.
And so what did you conclude?
Well, we concluded that there were numerous questions. I haven't seen the matrix of 63 items, but I understand that many of my items were on there. But what I found throughout the report or throughout the study was that the technology issues were secondary to the devastating, in my opinion, change in police operations, that not having direct management control over the dispatch operation would have compared to working through another entity and changing the business practices to work with a consolidated large operation. I think that's quite significant. It's very hard to monetize or put a dollar value on that benefit, but I believe it's quite significant. The report, I believe that was included in your council package initially was actually a draft. The report that was issued on the day of the meeting, I don't believe ever made it to you. I was asked to not attend the meeting because I didn't support the city staff's desired outcome, but I did issue a subsequent report that included answers to many of the questions council members raised by watching the video of the council meeting prior. So I encourage you to review that document. It's very thorough, very accurate, and one thing that I would like to...
that was part of your scope of work, too, to do a supplemental report?
I think the supplemental report was certainly appropriate to clarify questions that were asked in the meeting.
The question I asked you was, are you saying that the supplemental report was in your scope of work?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe it was.
Okay.
And you said that many of the things that you brought up in your report were in fact dealt with.
I haven't seen the matrix, so I can't address that question.
So let's get...
Well, you're listed here a lot.
I know, but I haven't seen the document.
Do we have an extra copy?
Sure. Why don't you give him mine? Here, why don't you give him this? Ms. Martell, can you give that to...
Yeah, I don't think I'll have time to review it.
Yeah,
Give him a copy, I have a copy.
So tell me, summarize here for me. Is this a good deal that the city's engaging with in the county? I'd like to hear your profession.
Asked him to tell us.
But I'd like to hear, here's my point. He's contracted out with 20 cities. He has expertise. If he did not have expertise, then the city of Daly City wouldn't have engaged him. So what I'm curious to know is, do you think this is the right deal for the city of Daly City? If it is the right deal, summarize why it isn't. If it's not, then tell me why it's not.
I have to qualify that answer with a couple of very important points. If the city is not in a financial position to support a full-service police department, this may be a good option.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's a serious compromise in structure of managing a police department and managing operations. But if you can't afford to run your own comm center, then I do suspect that the county is your best option. I don't think you have any other options. So it's a business decision based largely on available resources.
Well, Mr. Egan, have some questions.
Well, is he done yet?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, he's done.
Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Jones. I've got a couple questions for you. You say you've been doing this for a number of years, is that correct?
Correct.
And that you have a number of clients that operate in this county, correct?
Yes.
Would it be your assertion that none of them would be, that there would be a problem with any one of those ones that are your clients, your paying customers, to go to the county?
Could you rephrase your question? I'm not quite sure what
Let
your
me
point
back
is.
up. Okay, so your business, you make money by entering into contracts with, to provide services as it relates to radio communications and dispatch, correct?
And many other things, including law enforcement data communications.
Okay.
So it's not just maintaining radio equipment. We do substantially more. In
And
fact,
what
the
is the
software that would be needed to make many pieces of the outsourcing to the county work is software that I've developed.
What is the value of your contract with the city of Daly City?
I believe, I don't have the exact number, but I think it's about $1,500 to $1,800 a month.
And how long have you been under contract with the city of Daly City?
Many, many years.
Would it be over 20 years?
I'd have to check my records, but it could be 20 years.
Over 25 years?
I don't know.
So between 20 and 25 maybe?
Significant amount of time.
So, would it be truthful to say that you would stand to lose income if we were to go with the county dispatch proposal? Would that be a true statement?
I'd say that's probably not.
Come on. Keep it
Probably not.
First of all, back up. Do you think
Okay.
that's a fair question?
No, sir, I don't.
Can you please let him answer the question?
Back up. Let me, you listen.
Wow.
What is, do you think it's a fair question for people to know that you have a financial interest in the outcome of this?
Sir, I would like to respond to that, and I'll respond by saying.
No, I'm not gonna give you, you're
Okay.
gonna answer the questions I'm
Okay,
gonna
this is
ask.
not a court of law, sir, but if you would like me to respond to your question, I would be glad to.
Okay, so the question is, do you stand to lose any money if we were to go with the county dispatch rather than what we're doing now? Was that a yes or a no?
I would say probably income would change from one source to another, but there would be no financial
Say
loss
income
to me
would
at all.
change from this. What source would it change? From what source to which source?
Sir, I don't really have any desire to carry on this type of conversation with you. I
Okay,
think
then
it's quite
I've had
inappropriate.
enough. He's not gonna answer my questions.
Okay, but what I would like to say
Does
And I don't think you should.
is,
anyone have any more questions for Mr.
I think he's trying.
Hey,
Hey, Chief,
keep
you
it
told me I was a
down.
big fan of him.
Peter, really? Come
These
on,
guys should stand
just
up. He's
try
getting harassed.
to remain calm, okay?
okay.
Comments, why'd you hire him?
Joan, thank you very much.
Mayor, may I make a 30-second
Say
statement?
something. Are you seriously gonna do this to him?
Mr. Mayor,
Wait, what did you say?
May I make a 30-second statement?
Give him 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Give him 30 seconds.
If he can stop talking, you can talk, yeah.
He's gonna be allowed to
I'm
present
very
that.
fortunate to be in a financial position which allows me to conduct business with the highest of ethics. I'm not beholden to clients that prefer my reports echo their desired result. To suggest my report is influenced by personal financial gain is a self-defeating argument. The opposite is true. It would be much more lucrative to support my client's desired outcome without regard to findings of my study. What I provided you was an extremely fair and objective study, but apparently that is not what city staff desired.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Mayor,
Hey, Sal, I wanna note
for
that he worked
purposes-
Ed Wood. He worked
You
for
know
Ed
what?
Wood when Ed Wood was the Burlingame
Peter,
chief of
can you
police.
please just
Ed,
stop
is that true?
talking?
Ed, is that true?
Peter, stop it, okay? Just stop it, okay? Try to maintain some composure.
He worked for Ed Wood.
Jesus.
Ed Wood's
You
the
know what?
director of county
Peter,
communications.
Peter,
When
just
Ed
go
was
on.
in Burlingame,
He's gonna keep talking and shouting.
employed
You know what,
Mayor
Peter?
Jones.
You are disrespecting the entire process, which is gonna adversely impact your people, right? Think about that for a minute.
Mike and Gona
okay?
was disrespectful
Can you
in that
just
process right
stop talking? Jesus, just stop it. It's pathetic. It really is.
Sal,
Just
your
stop
process is pathetic.
talking.
Sal, your
Just stop.
process is
It's a
pathetic.
study session, Peter. A study session. We're studying, okay? Relax. Go ahead.
So I think in fairness to Mr. Jones, I can address some of the things that he talked about. We did contract with Daryl Jones because of his expertise and reputation in the county. He has a deep knowledge of the technology involved and has an understanding of our systems here in Daly City. And what he did for us, regardless of the report and the findings, is he developed issues. His job was to essentially bring forward issues in the consolidation puzzle. And much of what you see, and he would agree, in our negotiations with the county, our development of alternate business models for things that need to be changed and solutions, came from him. So in fairness to him, he does provide us information that was helpful in our negotiation with county, in all fairness. Many of his opinions about county were related to, and he can rebut, capacity, terms of the contract, our changes in business models, and what we would need to do to adapt to a county consolidation model. And what we did with that information provided by the employees in the union, was vetted the county and their ability to perform these tasks. And as I said earlier, many of the things that Mr. Jones brought up as issues or potential costs of future technologies and facilities, the county has assured us that they will not charge us during the terms of the contract. And at the end of the contract, they would negotiate fairly based on performance measures, and CPI would be a basis, a base point for that. So I think just in fairness to Mr. Jones, he served the purpose of kickstarting, reverse engineering this contract before the contract came out. So just in terms of being, as equal and fair as I can, I think it's important that that's brought out and you have an understanding of that.
And to just add to that one final note, I fully concur with what Captain Gamez has said. However, where there was a departure from the scope of work that was required of Mr. Jones was for him to opine as to whether or not we should be moving forward with the contract with the county. We didn't ask his opinion about that. We wanted to know the technical issues if we were to move forward with it. What were the identifiable technology issues that we would have to deal with if we were to go forward? We did not ask him his opinion as to whether or not we should do it. And yet the report very much is an opinion about whether or not it was in the best interest of the Daly City Police Department to move forward. He was not contracted for that purpose.
I have a question for you, Ms. Martell.
Hold on, Councilman, before you go, can I also say that in the Daryl Jones report is that one of the reasons he kind of surfaced up his hiring as a consultant is that in 2013, when we looked at outsourcing to other agencies, the other agencies turned in proposals, but South City turned in a very detailed proposal that was done by Daryl Jones. So when I looked at it, I said, wow, this really breaks it down on what the needs are of dispatch, to the point where even though South City's proposal was very high, didn't save us money, but it was giving me a true set of facts of what I need to look at. So when we started going through this and we started looking at our staff, again, we're not the experts, so when we talked about bringing in somebody, I was very comfortable bringing in Daryl Jones, exactly what Captain Gamma said, is to give us the issues, give us the facts, be persuasive on why, if we make the decision that I propose to the city manager, this is why we're doing it, we were looking for that. And those are the bits and pieces that we got out of the report from Daryl Jones.
And just to be fair to Mr. Jones, I was going to ask you a number of questions. The one that I asked earlier about your compensation, I thought was just a fair starting point. So notwithstanding that, I've read this. A lot of this is Mr. Jones's information. And from my understanding, from what the chief just told us, that when he got hired, there were many iterations of whether or not we should be going to the county, and that you were instrumental in pointing out the pros and the cons. The fact that you were used later on is great, because what you did was you gave us enough information to be able to negotiate with the county to be able to answer these big questions that nobody can answer.
That was my
So-
answer.
So I want to thank you for doing that, because what happened was, I'm not apologizing. I'm just saying thank you for doing that, because what happened was, it resulted in a document that we now have verified through this vetting process. And so, again, not to be disrespectful to you, sir, you have a lot of expertise, and clearly your expertise went into not only this document, but the final document, the contract itself. So that's all I wanted to say, is thank you for your expertise, and thank you for your input on this contract.
Pat Martell, and then Gomez. So let me ask you, I was just presented with this, the proposed scope of work for consulting services, and I just wanted to get clarity on this, Ms. Martell. Would you say it's accurate, and he put this in his summary, and I think this is the agreement that the city signed, and I don't know if you were privy to this agreement, so let me read this last paragraph to
Did
you.
not see the agreement, but I'd be glad to listen.
So you did not see the agreement, right?
No.
So okay. So let me just read the summary to you. And Mr. Gamez, Captain Gamez might be familiar with it. It says in the summary, this is the scope of work which is laid out. It's by Daryl Jones. I'll just read it to you. It's just 2 quick paragraphs. The city of Daly City is considering utilizing the county of San Mateo for its police dispatching operations in an effort to reduce expenses, comparing current in-house expenses to future contract cost is very complex. Basing a decision to contract or not contractor on incomplete or inaccurate information would be a costly mistake and be extremely disruptive to critical police operation. The work described in this proposal will provide the city with valuable information to consider when making the decision or whether to utilize county services or not. My question to you, and I want to ask the chief, and I want to thank you for being frank. Chief, are you familiar with this agreement? Were you privy to this agreement?
Right, at some point I looked at it.
You looked at it, right? And so when you looked at this agreement, it says, the work described in this proposal will provide the city with valuable information to consider when making the decision whether to utilize county services or not. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, Ms. Martell, what you said earlier, can you clarify that for me?
Yes, I'd be glad to. So, as with
No,
many
no, not
consultants that the city hires, we get information on a particular topic. In this case, it related to the technology and how communications work and how the interface might occur with the county, and identifying issues that we wanted to be able to bring up with the county as we negotiated a potential contract. We did not, and that's not what that scope of work says. It does not say that we are hiring him to tell us whether or not we should do that. However, when you read the report, there are many statements in the report itself which specifically stated that we should not go forward for a variety of reasons. And that, as I referenced earlier, that opinion we were not paying him for. We were paying him for his technology background and identifying issues for us to consider whether or not we wanted to go forward with a contract or not. However, there were also a lot of assertions made in that about how the Daly City Police Department operates and what positions we'd have to hire and a number of other things that were assertions that there was no way of Mr. Jones knowing whether or not the police department really needed to have those positions. And in fact, as it's turned out, if we went forward with this proposal, we don't need those positions. We have worked out an arrangement with the county so that we don't require another records clerk for warrants and a variety of other things. So assertions were made that slanted the report towards not going with the county. And that's not what we paid Mr. Jones for.
But you understand with this document right here that they agreed to this before they engaged into a contract, correct? This proposed scope. You want to look at it? Might be helpful.
Can I just offer you
I'll give it to you.
I mean,
I'm just.
I don't really
hold on.
need to. I mean,
Okay.
We
the work
don't,
is
the
done.
study
Okay.
session, the study session isn't
No.
about, hold on.
Yep.
The study session is not about analyzing the terms of an agreement, because I can tell you, just on the cursory reading of that, I can tell you, that agreement, what it's basically asking Mr. Jones to do, which is what he started to do, which is give us the pros and cons, not make a decision on the pros and cons, just give us the pros and cons. What Ms. Martell is saying is that, and where you go outside the scope of a contract is when you give the decision, not just pros and cons. But we're not here to decide or debate the merits of this contract.
No, what we are here for, Mr. Torres,
We're
is, no,
not here
no, Mr. Torres,
to decide
excuse me.
whether this contract is
No,
valid
Mr.
or
Torres,
outside
Mr.
the
Torres,
scope.
I think there's a disconnect, and the disconnect is this. And again, it says in the summary, the work described in this proposal, I'm not making this up, this is what they agreed to, Mr. Torres. The work described in this proposal will provide the city with valuable information to consider when making decisions whether to utilize county services or not. And so then the argument that people are making is, he went out of his scope of services, but that's not what's indicated in this document. And so,
But to what end?
David, hold on a second. Hold on.
but
It
I think
says-
that's the
No, no,
importance,
let
Mr.
me
Torres.
just say, I understand the importance. Can I just make a comment? Okay?
Yeah.
I've been writing contracts for 15 years. I know what it says to consider. It means to consider, not to decide.
I know.
It's as simple as that. All right. We're at the end of our study session hour, so we have to make a decision on whether or not we're going to move forward and agendize this.
I think we should move forward and agendize this. I think it's too important for us to just leave here with people disagreeing. I think it's important for the public to be able to weigh in on this. I think it should be on the agenda.
Okay, there's a motion to put this on the agenda.
I'd like to
for
make a comment before
May
that.
25? Oh, no, wait, sorry. May 23rd, sorry. May 23rd is so May 9th is next week. It's too soon. So May 23rd is the date.
Can we comment on it before we
Yeah,
move it
there's a
forward?
motion. Let me get a second. Is there a second?
Second?
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any questions on, the
Sure.
motion?
I'm not in agreement of moving this forward. I don't think it should go before the city council. It's become very clear to me. There's several reasons. I think the first reason is our rank and file police officers, and they've called me. A lot of them called me, and they're absolutely opposed to this. They view this as a public safety risk. And while I respect the dispatchers and the work you do, thank you for what you do, when our police officers call me and say, we have a problem with this, that's a problem for me. And I do think if they view this as a public safety hazard, it certainly is. The second thing that I want to address, and I think we'll address at the next meeting, is I'd like Mr. Jones to come back. I mean, I have several questions that need to be answered through Mr. Jones. And other than that, I'll just close with this. I want to thank the county for being here. I want to thank city staff. I want to thank the public. But I'm not going to support this moving forward. To the agenda.
Call the question. Can we get a roll call, please? Can you call a roll call?
And let's hear what
I make a
what
motion.
is the
I make a
motion?
motion that-
There's already a motion on the
There's a
floor.
motion and a second, so we got to vote on the first motion.
Let's just repeat the
It's-
motion.
According to Robert's rules, it's the last motion that was made that has to be voted on.
No, the Robert's Rule voters, when the
Yes.
motion is made and seconded, we got to call. the
No,
question on the motion.
once when you make another motion after that, it's the last motion that goes. So I make a motion that we not move forward. That's what the Robert Rules of Order says.
What did the first motion say? It was just, let's,
That's not what it says. That's not what it says. All right, so the motion on the floor is to have this item agendized.
it's not
for
moving,
public
yeah,
comment,
okay,
Not a
gotcha.
decision on whether or not we're going to do it. It's just to put it on.
To
the
make a
agenda
decision.
For Monday, May 23, at the regular city council meeting. Okay? Want to do a roll call, please?
It's an important issue. It needs to have a decision, and the only way we make a decision is at a council meeting, so I vote yes.
No.
Yes?
No.
Yes. All right, so it's going to be on for May 23. The meeting starts at 7 p.m. It'll be part of the agenda, and that night, we can do two things. We can either vote on it, one way or the other, up or down, for it or against it, or we can continue it if we still think we need more information. Okay? That's the end of the study session. Thank you, everybody. Do you need to keep that? Annette, do you need to keep